Not only were we given a new hypercar in this update, we were also given a new GT3. It is in fact the new Acura that has been added to the GT3 class, which makes this class an even wider class. There are so many different brands to choose from now in the GT3 class, which I think is really cool to see because it's the same way in real life. Now I'm going to be giving you my first impressions of not only the car, but also the Thruxton circuit. Now, I've never done a lap or anything around this track, so I don't actually know where to go. I know that it is a high-speed circuit, and with a car like a GT3 that has a big old wing on it, surely it's also going to be a pretty high average speed circuit in something like a GT3 car. The only problem is I don't really know where I'm going. I probably won't remember it either. It looks like we have a little kind of a chicane here. Oh my god, okay. That's interesting. And then we're back onto something that must be the start-finish straight into the first corner. This is a high-speed circuit. I think this will be really fun to drive in something like a GT3 or anything like slower. Potentially like the GT4s could be really fun here as well. As for my first initial impressions on the car itself, I actually kind of like it because it seems to be quite responsive, especially on the turn-in. It's not like a heavy car like perhaps the Mercedes or the BMW or something. It just feels pretty responsive on the turn-in. Would also help if I knew how to drive it, but that's just the first impressions I'm having, which is good. Now, my impressions of the track is that there are some super satisfying corners as long as you just figure them out. And for that, I will just take a couple more laps to figure out the braking points and the turn-in points and everything like that. And then I'll get right back to you. Now let me take you out for a little lap here at Thruxton. So onto the start-finish straight into the first corner, which is a super fast corner. I believe after when the tires got up to temperatures flat out on the outlap there, I'm having just to lift a little bit as it's the first flying lap on the sort of cold tires into this harder braking zone where we want to brake all the way down to second gear. Missed the apex quite a bit there. We can use these curbs, but they also give a little bit of bounce into the car. This third one should be flat out as the exit widens up a lot. Next up, we have a fast section. First a little bit to the right and then to the left. Basically use all of this curb just on the limit, and then we go into this long right-hander of a corner, which basically just keeps on going forever. Run out wide a little bit on the exit. Maybe keep it tight here to make it a little bit shorter, but now we come up to a corner that is flat out. So we need a good line here. Blind apex. Flat out. Just about getting the car turned around before we get to the exit curb there. But it is possible to keep flat out. Now into the final corner. Brake just before the 50 board. Down into second gear. Sort of keep it tight there on the entry so we don't miss the apex by too much. Through the little tricky chicane. And that's basically a lap around this track. Super flowy track and super fun. You can see, there we go. Taking T1 flat out, but just about getting it off track on that lap. Super fun track, super flowy, and indeed something that'll be interesting to hot lap and drive in quali. Now, actually having done a couple laps here, I think this combo is quite satisfying. I think in terms of GT3 cars, you might know that I'm not the biggest GT3 lover, but I actually think this is quite nice. The sort of more compact build this car has and the more responsiveness that it feels like it has is something that I actually kind of like about a GT3 car. That it doesn't feel crazily heavy. On top of that, the track feels great fun. I think this track really feels amazing. It has a great flow and a lot of high-speed corners like this one, for example. Just getting on the curb there, flat out, using all of the track. It's a very short track, but I think if something like GT3 series or something could go here, as I said, or like the GT4s or something, I think that could be a really fun and good combo, right? Because it also has some really good flow here, and then a little thing, chicane at the end. However, as for overtaking opportunities, I think you would have to get a bit creative, which is actually also kind of something I like. There's also grass everywhere, so if you make a mistake, you know, it'll be punished, you know, like an old school track or like a lot of old school tracks where if you get off the track, you end up going onto the grass or something like it. I like that around a track like this. I think it would be super cool to maybe try and do some GT3 races if it goes here. Maybe I'll do that just to send it. As for the car, as I said, I like it. Whether it's on pace, you'll have to go somewhere else to find out. Do I think you should buy this? Ooh, I mean, if you're a Vivid GT3 driver, you probably you probably would be buying it anyways, right? Whether you should or not, in terms of pace, I don't know. In terms of driving, I actually think it's pretty alright. I think the car feels good to drive in, and yeah, has nice handling characteristics as well. That's a little slow down. It's a little bit too much. Should you buy the track? It's a really, really good track. I don't know how popular it'll be, how good the racing might be. As I said, it's hard to overtake around here. But as for just driving, I mean, it's a super satisfying track to do laps at. Super satisfying, I think, to do races on as well. I mean, I've bought it. That's maybe the best way of saying stuff. Now to just quickly show you this from the outside, I've launched the game into replay mode with good graphics. Of course, the car looks quite lovely. A lot of GT3 cars nowadays look good because they are essentially road cars that are just modified just like this one. It looks really good. It sounds a little bit like a vacuum cleaner, arguably, but that's not necessarily the most important thing. It drives pretty nicely. On top of that, Thruxton looks really nice, and in terms of visually, overall, I think this update from iRacing has actually been pretty solid. Anyways, if you did enjoy this video, if you did find this useful, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.